I found really difficult to scale businesses. I didn't know how to scale people and I didn't know how to scale my system. It grew for a little bit and then it started to plateau. You don't want your business to run you. Freedom doesn't come from having a bigger business. Freedom comes from...
In this episode, Linh sits down with leadership and growth expert Shivani Gupta. With 23 years of experience, 8 books, and over 1,500 leaders coached, Shivani helps founders and CEOs build teams, systems, and trust, so the business can grow without everything depending on them. As a TEDx speaker and Bloom growth coach, she's worked with companies like CBA, Rio Tinto, and Origin Energy. If you want to free yourself from the day-to-day while scaling your business, this episode is for you.
Welcome to the show, Shivani. So great to have you on.
Yeah, lovely to see you, Lynn.
Well, it's great to be your fellow entrepreneur member of EO. But most importantly, recently I was talking to you because I run a business, as you know, outsourcing angel, and often businesses come in and it's not just a VA that they're after. It's really about how do I actually scale my business and ultimately build a business to run without you. And that is why I'm excited to have you on the show, because I really want to dive deep into your, your model, your entrepreneur operating model called Bloom. You're the Bloom growth coach here. And welcome to the show. And maybe let's start with a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur yourself, so that people can really see that you're not just a coach and you're providing theory. Like, you've been in the shoes of entrepreneurs before.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I found really difficult to scale businesses. I mean, I had 2 big problems. And one of the problems was I didn't know how to scale. I didn't know how to scale people and I didn't know how to scale my system. So then what I found was that it grew for a little bit and then it started to plateau. And many entrepreneurs have that challenge, is how do we keep growing sustainably, but how do we keep growing our people? How do we keep growing our systems? And I think that the 2 are really interlinked. And the other thing that I noticed in my businesses, Lynn, was that I was creating great revenue, but I didn't have great cash deposits sitting around. Mm-hmm. And so I also just wanted to really learn, which I've done a lot through the EO, but implementing an operating system into my business was super helpful because we just started to get the cadence right. Lots of people there were some great people, but everybody was doing their own thing. And so just having a system where people got very clear about their accountabilities, we systemized the way that we ran our meetings, we systemized a bunch of things. And when we started to do that, both of my problems started to get smaller and eventually diminished. And then I was able to really scale the business. A lot of people also talk about this notion of growth versus scale. And I read a great book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy that talks about 10x is easier than 2x. And one of the things he talks about is that a lot of people talk about a growth mindset. So the growth mindset is really incremental growth, but a scale mindset is when you want to grow really fast. And so, people might want to double their business, right? They want to, grow by... what would their business look like? Not only if they're 10x'd it, but 50x'd it or 100x'd it. And so I think when you're starting to talk about growth, whether it's incremental growth or exponential growth, systems are just key.
So what were some of the businesses that you ran in terms of the industry you've got experience in, and even the clients that you currently have been working with?
Absolutely. So one of the businesses that I scaled and was able to 10x and then exit was in the wellness space. So we had services in terms of, massages and facials, but also products as well. So really great, organic product range. The other business that I was able to grow and sell, which was kind of divided into 2 parts, were co-working spaces. So I'd bought sort of derelict buildings and had them renovate and project manage them with a number of builders. So sort of set that up and then had more than 30 businesses in each one. And then also exited that business in 2024 as well.
And how about the existing, entrepreneurs, business owners that you have had experience working with?
Yeah, so there's a variety of them. And they usually are that sort of $1 million US plus, like we talk about in EO. And so I've got sort of clients ranging from about 3 million till about 21 million. And again, a lot of them want to grow. Not just in revenue, but in profit, but more importantly, they also want to grow their people. So they're starting to go, well, how do I actually take, the people that I've got, the business that I've got, and how do I actually grow that without being crazy, without stressing myself out, without having sleepless nights, what do I actually do? So the work that we've been doing with them is in Bloom, one of the things that we do is we call it day 1, 30, 60. And then every quarter we meet after day 1, 30, 60. And then we also do a 2-day annual offsite as well. So the idea in those is to really take each of those clients through that process, getting them closer, working together as a team, but also getting all their KPIs really clear, getting where they want to be and what they want to grow in 5 or 10 years' time, having those more in-depth conversations about how do we, for example, with the changing landscape with AI, how do we bring that into a leadership team? And having those, I always, some people call them elephants in the room, the tough conversations, the fierce conversations, whatever you want to label them. But, often it's very difficult for a leadership team to do that. Or the CEO or the founder becomes that facilitator. So it's always also really great to actually have somebody facilitate those tough conversations and make those decisions that are going to, work out what they're going to do and also, more importantly, what they're not going to do in the future.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because sometimes you're so stuck in the weeds, you can't see, you're blindsided by challenges, and it's always good to have like fresh eyes and someone else that are experienced and professional at what they do, which is like, it takes a skill set to actually facilitate and bring the best out of your team. So what you mentioned is it's not the industry or type of business. It applies to everyone. It's just that they're at the growth stage. So they're, in terms of, you mentioned the revenue size, but other than that, the business growth model really works through any types of businesses.
Any type of business. And, the growth can be, a lot of people are saying, hey, I just don't have the right people. So the people that have got me here, I know aren't the people that get me there, but they've been with me for 5 years or 10 years. And so people, founders and leadership teams go, how do we actually scale with the right people going forward? And so Bloom, divides up everything into 8 different areas. So, some operating systems have 4 or 5. Bloom's looked at all those deep things. And the one thing that really attracted me to it is the relationships piece. I always think, doesn't matter what business you're running, doesn't matter whether you're selling a product or a service, the relationships we have, whether we've got 3 people in our leadership teams and 20 staff, or we've got 500 people in our business, at the end of the day, those relationships and scaling trust in leadership teams is so important. Because we are humans, even with all the AI stuff coming in. How do we actually learn to trust each other? How do we allow each person to shine and do the things that they need to do? But we stay true to working as a leadership team and growing. So the growing problems come, and they're many. Sometimes they're financial, sometimes they're growth, sometimes they're infrastructure, sometimes they're people. And so whenever companies are getting really stuck with their growth and they're not moving, then I think it's really important to be able to say, hey, let's step back and look at this, with a facilitator that can help us guide those conversations and make some decisions that are going to help us get to where we want to go.
Awesome. So you did mention relationships. So the other areas is process, technology, growth plan, finance and data, sales and marketing, meetings and people. If you had to kind of give a quick one sentence per thing. So relationship, you mentioned already, is really about the relationship. Is this amongst not just internal but external stakeholders? And then process, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, when you look at, for example, sales and marketing, which is a really great part, it's really also about sort of, it's not just about having a process or having an ideal client. One of the things that we need to do is work out what the engine is. We need to work out, how do we get people working together to get that experience? When it comes to technology, it's not just internal technology, which we can get stuck on, but it's that user experience that we call about it. So what are the pieces in technology that we need to shift to be able to do that? A lot of times when we talk about growth plans, Lynn, we talk about, well, the growth plan is, okay, we want to get to that over the next year. But what about long term? What's your 5-year growth plan? And then how do we reverse engineer that into 3 or 1 year, and then break that down into our next quarter, and what those, actions we need to do now that are going to help us get into the long-term thing. Processes is often where operating systems are often started. Like, how do we automate our processes? But more importantly, sometimes the decisions are, what are the common challenges that we keep having that we haven't automated? But also, have we got some things that we just need to delete or just stop doing? So you want to have that conversation around, all of those different elements. The technology piece, a lot of it, the conversations I'm having at the moment with clients, is really about, do we need do we need somebody that's an agent or somebody on the leadership team that's looking at AI across the board? And so with the technology piece, again, what is the part that we're going to do? What are the changes that we need to make that serves whatever our clients are in the type of business that you have? So what you do is you break down each of them. Finance and data, clarity, knowing what your goals are, absolute clarity. So when teams get really aligned, when everybody knows what we're trying to get to and you're speaking about them constantly, and you have your meetings that are aligned where everybody says, yep, I'm doing that part and I'm accountable for this particular. There might be 5 people on the leadership team that are involved with it, but there's one person that's the champion, one person that's got their name next to it. So they've got to drive that out. And so when you have people doing that, the results speak for themselves. And that's when you start to get over some of those bumps, let's call them, then people start to be really successful.
Yeah. I love this model in that it's so detailed. It even has one of the pillar, which is meetings. I'm assuming it's got to do with, I guess, the amount of communication and how you communicate, because you could have all these moving parts, but if you don't have a cadence for how you communicate with your team, is this where it could fall apart because you don't have the right rhythms in meetings?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things we talk about in Bloom is love your meetings. I don't know many people that love their meetings. In fact, most clients I speak to talk about that meetings are excessive. They're not very high performing. They come out, they go into it unclear in terms of what they should have prepared, and they come out of it often unclear in terms of, well, what are the parts that I'm responsible for? So one of the things that Bloom we talk about is love your meetings. How do we get your 90-minute meeting every week where you love it? You look forward to it. It is very highly driven, and we use the software to run that meeting. It's got a timer on. It literally takes you through all the different steps. So at the end of it, you've got some actions done, you've got clarity, you've got next steps done. And so we talk a lot about having less meetings, but making sure that you absolutely love those meetings as a leadership team when you get to it. And when you start people that their mindset shifts around that, they bring more to the table. People know what to bring to that particular meeting. They know what they've got to discuss. And then, 60 minutes of that 90 minutes, you spend most of the time discussing some of those longer term issues or some really big obstacles and opportunities that you've got in your business that can really, again, drive that growth. So rather than everybody updating each other, which happens in a lot of meetings, you stay away from the updates. The updates actually take around 5 minutes and everybody just talks about what's on track, off track. Most of the time in that meeting, you discuss the things that need that deep thought, that deep work, that deep debate and conversation. You make those decisions and then you notice that the difference that it has.
So apart from, I guess I can already see this is very different to the other entrepreneur operating system that's out there, the other competitors. What would you say, the key differences are? What makes you really love this kind of growth model?
Yeah, look, I looked at lots of different types of systems and I really felt that it helped my business so much. So then I did a bit of a review on what was available. And, the things that I loved about Bloom, the first is it's really built by an entrepreneur for entrepreneurs. So, in many operating systems, you can just go in and actually become a facilitator or an implementer. In Bloom, you actually have had to have built businesses, gone through the pain of scaling them and gone through the pain of exiting them. So I think the fact that it's built by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs and by entrepreneurs is really, really important for me. The second part I love was that it has 3 additional pieces that other systems didn't. So it's got a relationships piece that we've been talking about is how do I scale trust in relationships with my leadership team? It's got a sales and marketing piece, which has become so important in making sure, what does our funnel look like? Our ideal clients look like? What are the strategies we've got around sales and marketing? And it's got this technology piece with AI that's become more and more relevant in terms of what does that user experience look like for the customer that's actually using that part. So I love that it's got the 3 parts. The other is it's constantly iterating. It's not a system that's been around that stayed the same for 10, 15, 20 years like many other systems. It takes the feedback from the growth coaches around the world. Last year there was more than 1 million, meetings that were had just in a couple of countries alone. So the data that it's got from the software, it's constantly iterating that. And even with some of my clients, they've had a couple of ideas for software. So you can take that back into the clients and the dev team in Bloom, and then they look at fact, they're going, look, we've had that feedback from a different number of different clients. And so what they do is iterate the software. So what I love is that it's constantly improving and iterating and getting better so that the clients actually have a better experience with it too.
Yeah, I love that. So you mentioned software. Is it so when they work with you, is there some sort of platform dashboard that they also use, not just having a coach that comes around to help them?
Yeah, so they're kind of integrated. So the coach and the software work together. So on all of the days that we have together where I'm facilitating, the Bloom days with a client, I'm using the software. It's basically up as we come up with ideas, as we come up with challenges in the business, we literally just pop them into the software. The software is really easy to use. And the idea of the software is also the clients are using them for their weekly meetings as well. And so all of the challenges that come up, all of the ideas that they come up get captured in one place. The other thing that happens is we know sometimes we speak to one person and they say, hey, I've got this, thing that needs to be done. And then the founder or the leader's going 3 weeks later, I ask them to do something and I'm not sure if they've done it. So the fact that it takes everything out of your head onto the software, which then divides it up into your weekly list, it's got all your key KPIs, it's got your 90-day goals, it's got your year goals, and it's got your 5-year goals all in the one system, which you literally use. And it's like a Word document, but at the back end, the software runs all of the different systems. So it makes it really easy to not remember or not work out who you said what to. The follow-up is super easy and everything's really transparent in terms of who's responsible for who.
Yeah, gotcha. And when you work with a client, are you working with the founder or like, are there certain sessions that you would involve the team? Yeah, I guess how does it actually function as, between you and the business owners?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Sometimes the founder will say, oh my God, Shivani, this is exactly what we need. We need Bloom to come in. One of the things I always say to them, Lynn, is that, yes, you could sign on for Bloom, but really one of the things we need is the leadership team to sign on for Bloom, because we need everybody being able to use not just the software, but really signing on for the fact that they want to do this growth part. So one of the things I do is offer a free 90-minute meeting. And, the founder might bring a sample of their leadership team. Let's say they've got 6 people. They might bring 3 of their leadership team. They're more than welcome to bring all 6. And what I do is I just offer a 90-minute where we run through the system. They do a bit of an evaluation of what's happening in their business. It's also such a great thing for the founder to almost be a fly on the wall. So the founder gets an opportunity to sit there and listen to the team in a facilitator session by me, where we talk about what are some of the things that are getting in the way for them growing. And we have really deep and honest conversations. What that does is that gets the leadership team to all agree on the fact of where they want to be. And so I always say to implement any growth, as we know, the founder can have the best ideas, but the implementation will always be by the leadership team. And I think it's really important to get the leadership team to sign off on a program like this, because you want to be working with them for a number of years to help them grow. Like I've got one client that's sitting at about 13 million and they want to get to 50 million. That's a huge growth. And so when they want to kind of grow at that particular level, we've got the leadership team making sure that they're not only just agreeing with that, but they're committing to the pieces that's going to get them to that sort of 5-year goal that they've got.
Very good. Yeah, you're so right. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, you need the buy-in. Otherwise, the execution won't be done well. Now that you've consulted and you've also run your own business, what would you say that makes a business not grow? Like, I guess I want to also highlight, like, if they keep doing what they're doing and just run the business the way it is without getting their help, I guess what pain would they go through?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that happens is that most people start, implementing processes in their business, but it becomes the founder's processes. It's not really a system. So rather than create your own system, Bloom's now worked with over 5,000 companies globally. There is millions of pieces of research and data that already exists in terms of that. So I always say to leadership teams, what are the problems that keep coming back in your business? What are the ones that you're not tackling? Where is it a systems problem? Often it's never a people problem. Even when somebody doesn't perform, they go, oh, this person didn't perform in their lab. Is it really a people problem or is it a systems problem? I believe it's a systems problem. What was it that we put up with that behavior for so long? And what are the systems that we need to design and the decisions that we need to make as we do that? So I always say that, you don't want your business to run you. You want a system, you want to have a business that's systemized, that you run, And so you actually work on the things that matter. And we've been talking about, working on the business rather than in the business for a long time. I think when you put an operating system in like Bloom, one of the things that happens is you truly start to work on the business and you truly start to work on the things that matter the most. Recent conversation with a founder, one of the things that founder had been doing, and they've been running that business for about 12 years, and they've been doing the same thing that they've been doing for 12 years. When we had one of the Bloom days together as a leadership team, and we're just about to step into their first quarterly session, we made some decisions around what the founder could be doing on the org chart. That maybe from a growth perspective, one of the things that he needed to do was to let go of some of the things that he was responsible for. And we had that discussion. So when we get into our quarterly planning in about a month's time, we've already got him working on a different set of KPIs and objectives that also allows some of the leadership team to do things. So, that's difficult to facilitate sometimes on your own. And leadership teams also find it really difficult to say to the founder or the CEO of the business, I don't agree with you. So it's also great for the founder to sit as a colleague, as an equal person around a leadership team when you've got an external facilitator taking you through those growth questions and asking some of those hard questions that you then as a group make some decisions on.
Yeah, I love that. And can you do this virtually as well, or everything has to be in person?
Yeah, no, not at all. Both work. I've also got some clients, what they've done is they've started in person just so we have that relationship built, and then we go to a hybrid model. A lot of teams sometimes are separate, and they're working in remotely anyway, so that really works. Other times people go, we do so many things remotely, seeing that we're having a few days with you each year. One of the things that we want to do is we want to have you in person. So it really depends on what the needs is. And I always think the important thing is to meet the client where they're at. So depending on what their view is and how they want to structure, it's great. Both those options of, face-to-face, online, or a hybrid model can be implemented.
Yeah. In terms of, I guess, your ideal client, other than the revenue size and that they want to grow, what would make a great business owner for you to work with, right? I'm leaning towards, I'm just imagining if someone is a little bit like, I wouldn't say stubborn or like, this is my way. I don't know if this will work. I guess anything else that you would say would make this a success as a partnership between you and the business owner?
Yeah, absolutely. So my ideal client, when they say, what's the ideal sort of avatar look like from that perspective, it's really from that 2 to 40 million. So anybody that's doing revenues of around 2 to 40 million, they've already identified that they're stuck in a couple of things that are not working for them. And they've got that mindset. They've got that growth and that scaling mindset that we were speaking about. They go, you know what, I could try and do this on my own, but I think it'd be really good to have a facilitator and a growth coach that's got the systems, that's got the experience, that asks us the hard questions so we can actually get over that. So I think those 3 are the key criteria. I think that the problems that we have in businesses, as you know, Lynn, and I know, is that our problems are the same, irrespective of what industry that we're in, irrespective of the size of our business. And I think that most people, want to grow, not just for growth's sake. They want to grow in a sustainable way. But how do we actually do that and systemize that?
Thank you. So if they were interested in working with you, I guess what would be the next step, and what would be, I guess, a process from here?
Yeah, the next step would be just to hop onto the link here, which is a Calendly link, book a time with me. If you're the founder or one of the leaders in a business, and share with me some of the challenges. If we think that there's some challenges that we can work on together, I'd be so happy to offer the 90-minute meeting where we get a sample of the leadership team together and we work through a couple of the different areas. And let's work out what are some of the areas that we might need to do some work on. And then we go from there and we work out, how I can help and share with you all of the expertise and how do I add value in terms of some of the challenges that you've got into your business.
Great. Thank you. Well, I guess would the prices and the packages be different for different types of clients? Is this when they have a chat with you, you can come up with the proposal? Is that I guess people listening, they might go, oh, how much is it? I guess in what range, what budget should I have ready?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's 2 things that I find with founders. One is that people, there's been a trend I've noticed that people don't want to pay a lump sum. So I think, how do I work in my business? I like paying a flat fee. That's, done every month. So I just have a flat fee in terms of what actually works. And people then say to me, oh, well, what do I pay? Like, it could be costing me hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, what will it do? To me, I think it's really important, again, to sort of work out what we do. So I charge just $3,600 plus GST for Australian clients. And just, I adjust that for any of the overseas clients. And you just pay that monthly. If you want me to travel, we just literally put the costs on for that separately. And I just charge that flat fee. And I find that being really clear about that really helps people, because they can then budget that from a cash flow perspective as well.
I love that. The way I see it, it's almost like hiring you on a fractional basis. All of a sudden, you got someone so experienced, like an advisor, not just an advisor, but someone that helps you facilitate and be part of the growth of your team for a fraction of the price. A fraction, it's almost like less than hiring a local assistant.
It is absolutely less than a local assistant, but they do need the VAs through you, Lynn, in terms of the work that they do, because again, you want to work on the stuff that matters. And I think that when you've always done, what we've always done, you just don't get to that growth where you want. And you limit yourself, but you also limit your team. You limit what this organization that you build and the clients and the number of customers it can serve. So I always think that, we want to serve as many people in the work that you've created. You've taken all these risks. Now operationalize it. Now make sure you've got systems in place. So also your leadership team is doing the work that it's meant to be doing, and you're using the gifts that they've got as well.
So what makes you so passionate about this work? Like, what's your purpose? What's your drive?
Well, for me, Lynn, I noticed that, I really struggled to scale businesses. I'm the first entrepreneur in my family. I don't have any other entrepreneurs. I'm also the first woman in my lineage to work. And so to actually see people that risk it all, that tell their families, despite the education that they've had, that they're going to risk it all and borrow more money and mortgage their house, and they're going to take this massive risk trying to help the world in their drop in the ocean that they want to create. I want to see more people successful. The failure rate of businesses is really high. And so one of the things I'm really passionate about is seeing more people become successful. And I also love seeing people reach their potential. So if their business, is a $3 million business and you're sitting at, $1 million, how do we help you get to that? If you're sitting at a $10 million business and you want to get to $50 million business, awesome. How do I help you get to that? So I'm really passionate about businesses reaching their potential through the people and the systems that you create. But I also want to see more people successful, because I think it's heartbreaking to have, people that take so much risk against the advice of their family and friends, go out and do it, and then they're not successful and they feel like failures. So I just want more entrepreneurs to feel successful. I want them to reach their goals, and I want to help them create that freedom. Freedom doesn't come from having a bigger business. Freedom comes from systemizing and operation, looking at everything that you've got, so you've got more free time. As my business grew, as I systemized it, I started creating more freedom time. And I know that's something that's really important for you. I started not missing my kids' birthday, parties, and getting there at the end and outsourcing everything and having a nanny look after them. I started to have more time for my health. I started to have more time for my family, and I started to create more time for my friends and travel and other things that I really wanted to do. And that's one of the reasons that we do it. And I know that's something common that you and I have.
Yeah. And that's the reason why I wanted you to come on the show, to share it with my audience and anyone listening here, because I really, truly am so passionate about helping entrepreneurs as well. Like you said, we've done so much to sacrifice our life and for our family. And sometimes that journey becomes so hard and it's no longer enjoyable. And it's so sad, because ultimately, we all have a calling. We all have our the skill set and experience and the desire to help. And so and it's just a little bit of a fine tune and work with the right person for us to get there. As we wrap up, is there anything that I didn't ask you yet? Anything that you want to share that will help people to understand this growth model better, or understand what it's like to work with you?
Look, one of the things I always say, it's not that, one thing is better. If you don't have a system, you need a system. And I think the other is, if you've had a system that's not working for you, maybe it's not the system. Maybe you just need something else. So just, like we do with the sports that we find, or, food that we like, keep finding things that are working for you in the future. And so, if you've got a system that's not working for you, or if you haven't got one, I would just welcome a conversation. Let's have a conversation to see if there's something that I can do, or even if I can refer you to something or a book, or, Jack just helps you get out of the rut. So just don't feel like you're alone. There's lots of people around you to help you. And I know that being a founder and an entrepreneur can be a very lonely place. And that's one of the reasons you and I belong to EO and the Entrepreneurs Organisation, Lynn, is that it's not very easy doing the work that we sometimes do and the risks that we take and sometimes the crazy hours that we work to create that freedom. So just, don't try and do it alone. Have people help you.
Well, thank you so much, Shivani, for your time today. I'll make sure to put all the links, all the important links in the description below of the video. But how else do people find you online?
The best places are LinkedIn, which is Ask Shivani, and the website is also called Ask Shivani. So they're probably the two best places to find me.
Yeah, and we'll put the Calendly link in the description of this video. Thank you so much for your time. I've learned so much, and I look forward to together working on the mission to create freedom for business owners out there.
Thank you, Lynn.